Now, let's look at the special case of NOx and just plain nitrogen. Nitrogen is on Earth in different compounds. We have N2, which is very inert. Remember, that is the great amount of our atmosphere, and it doesn't do anything. But reactive nitrogen will undergo reactions. And we have nitrogen-based fertilizers, from animal poop to synthetic ammonia. They're used to promote plant growth. NOx is also a source of this reactive nitrogen. The result is that ecosystems are becoming overloaded with the good nitrogen that's reactive. It's like a little bit's wonderful, too much will kill you. Because they become saturated, they're unable to absorb excess, their ability to absorb exceeds the amount there. And what happens? Well, we get these plumes. It is an imbalance of nitrogen. And let's look at this one first. This is more the reactive nitrogen from the last slide. You'll get excessive algae growth. Woo! I've got all this nitrogen and I just go for it. But when it dies, it consumes oxygen in the water. And remember, this oxygen is what the fish are taking out of the water with their gills. So the fish die. Right? They call them dead zones. The fish have it removes oxygen, so the fish suffocate, and shellfish. You see it in the Gulf of Mexico. Coming out the bottom of the Mississippi, there's a huge dead zone, and it's getting bigger. And North Carolina, where the big pig farms are. Again, poop is a wonderful source of reactive nitrogen, and when it hits a area that's conducive, it will grow this huge amount of algae and then die, and oh my goodness. Okay. And also nitrates in the water, very soluble. And it gets into our water system. We drink it. And it can impede our absorption of O2. So it usually doesn't affect us too much, but babies who are very vulnerable, it can give them blue baby, which means they are also suffering from a reduction in oxygen. Okay, let's go back to number 1, and then NOx also contributes to the acid deposition, that in turn forms haze and diminishes air quality. We've seen this before. This is the new thing I've kind of introduced here. Okay. So what has been done? Well, let's look at this. You can see the bulk is from coal-burning power plants. Some of this is from coal-burning power plants, but the majority from autos, from, let's just say, vehicles. Okay, so that is like a moving target. These are point sources. They call these point sources. So they are easy to track, easy to monitor, easy to install fixes, all right? And we have seen this guy going down, down, down. Isn't that lovely? That's wonderful. Okay, now NOx though, NOx has fuel combustion, industrial processing, transportation. This is my vehicles. So you'll notice this has gone up tremendously. Okay, and we have a flattening of NOx. It may be even increasing as we go past 2002. So the targets here, this one is doing very well. This one has not. The eastern states are suing the Midwest and the South to reduce them even more. Costs in electrical prices have gone up. Costs in jobs are attributed to this. And we have also, though, installed a couple of fixes. Emissions trading credit. That's a really kind of fun because it is like using a commodity or chips. So a company can buy and sell emissions. The Clean Air Interstate Law or Rule, CARE, was enacted in 305. They're still fighting about it in this year. They're hoping to, the concentration has gone more towards ozone and particle matter, and that is because they have found that our friends SO2 and NOx directly result in increases in these secondary, these particle matter and ozone. These are called secondary. Okay. All right. So these are my primary, and my friend O3 and particle matter are secondary pollutants. And CARE just went through and figured out which states were putting them out and told them to fix it and come up with their own plans. And the states are suing them because they're saying it is excessively expensive. Other people, such as President Bush, put out a initiative, but unfortunately that was a lessening of the Clean Air Act as opposed to a tightening. So it did not gain much ground outside of his cronies in Congress. Okay, we can skip that. All right, costs and controls. Most attention is focused on reducing the release of SO2 from coal-burning power plants, our point source, and NOx from gas-fueled vehicles. They are greatly reduced by cattle converters, which are in every car. The Clean Air Act and the acid rain, ARP, estimate cost to comply very widely. Depends on who you talk to. Right? U.S. Congress said $4 billion a year, but the EPR, the electrical company, said $23 billion a year. That's a big difference. The actual, they've measured it, was about 0.8, and that's only $3 per person. And then when you start putting in, okay, your healthcare costs, it is much more benefit than a drain on our society. By 2015, the Environmental Protection Agency estimates that their CARE program, again, good luck, will cost about that much a year. That's a lot. Now, this is just in certain states, remember. It is not nationwide. Why do it? Because, again, it's going to be health benefits. But they're long-term, and it is a cost versus benefit problem. And so it takes a lot of analysis to figure out what to put into this benefits package. Okay, so what are we doing? Well, a number of things. At the coal burning power plant, we can have clean coal technology. Clean coal technology is a number of things, and for example, they've developed and installed low NOx burners on numerous coal-burning power plants. With less oxygen present, then less NOx is produced. By 2003, 75% of the coal-burning power plants had these low NOx burners. Another CCT option is to reburn, which additional fuel is injected, and the combustion process strips away oxygen from the NOx. But they're really complex technologies and require artificial intelligence to perform. It's more like a chemical plant than a power plant. For sulfur, okay, we have a number of them. Coal switching. Here's one. Coal switching from high sulfur coal to low sulfur coal. That was the primary reason why we were able to obtain AARP goals. Another one was putting in scrubbers. Scrubbers in the power plants and in the smokestacks. To remove SOx. All right, and I'm going to use SOx, XO2, also sequestering. There's another one. This one's really expensive. This is where you take the gases from the smokestacks and pump them underground and pump them into a storage facility. And so this can be underground, under the ocean, It has been done, but holy cow, facility. It is very expensive. You can also pre-wash. This is all for just coal. All right, so this is all coal. 1, 2, 3, 4 is all coal, and then this is my friend sulfur or NOx down here. Okay, so coal, we can also wash it with steam. To make what's called syngas, which removes the sulfur and other impurities and makes primarily CH4, H2, and gosh, I think that's primarily what they are. All right, it removes impurities. This, of course, is also expensive, but it's going to be done. All right, here's a picture of a scrubber. It is a interesting piece of equipment. A lot of them have this, and Japan, 86% have them. This is the cap and trade. This tells us each company has in the cap and trade program, they can have a max amount of emissions set forth by the EPA. If they perform better, they get a credit per ton. These credits can be sold, traded to other power plants that have been able to meet their emissions allowances. It's kind of cool because there's a financial incentive then for power companies to achieve these reductions. But the problem is that other companies can legally emit more than their allowed amount. Prices have varied for these credits from $400 to $700 in 2005. They thought that they would get really expensive, and this would push companies to lower their emissions. But the technology is getting better. Older plants are being taken offline, and we have a pretty even Steven amount over the years. Okay. This is for SO2 only. It has been proposed to do for NOx, but that's more difficult to do. Like I say, all those controls in plants are hard. I think that one of the proposals in CARE is the NOx reduction and cap and trade. So by the time we look at this together, it may be law. Okay. One cool thing is that students and environmentalists have bought these credits, and they're traded on the Chicago commodities market, and then they've retired them so that they never can be used to pollute. That's kind of interesting. Vehicles are very difficult. Remember, this is NOx. This is my source of NOx, and it is not a point source per se. We've put the cattle converter on it, and that has reduced it, but there are enormous problems ahead. Diesel engines, for example, they last an enormously long time. They account for a huge amount of the NOx emissions and the PM, particle matter emissions. And then clean coal, wherein the pollutants are removed, is important. The problem is that we need something that, remember where this comes from. It comes from the reaction of N2 in the air plus O2 in the air plus the heat of the exhaust. So it is going to be a long-term problem. Alrighty, so that is acid rain.